and it's 12 feet down jumping, it's incomplete. All fire escapes, that's per building code, not fire code, that's per building code, must be down to a public way. And in some fire codes, they have the same requirement, that all egresses must be to a public way, meaning you can't put them into a locked yard, you can't put them in a back alley, you can't put them somewhere where they can continue onto a public way. Cantilevers, there's a drawing of a cantilever, okay? And then the next page, look at this, guys, coming soon to a theater near you. In Seattle and in Portland, every fire escape must have a white tag, 8.5 by 11. In Seattle, they want it to be 19 by 11. And it's a big white tag that says what? The fire escape has no deficiencies. And you know who's that's for? The firemen. Because when they show up, you guys know what the norm is being taught to all the firemen in the U.S., not here just in LA? In case of fire, don't use the fire escape. That's what they're taught. The fire escapes are so bad, you know, that they basically don't have any confidence nationwide. But imagine you running down an alleyway and you're a firefighter and it's smoky and it's dark and it's night and there's a third floor woman there screaming with a baby in her hands. A lot of times they'll go and get the ladder, they'll go and get the machinery or the equipment they need to get to that woman, which has how many minutes to survive in a smoky situation? 2, 3? Whereas if he's running down the alleyway and he sees a white tag in Seattle or a white tag in Portland, what's he do?
The fire escape.
He uses the fire escape to go up there and get it. So that's what they did. If I examine the fire escape in Seattle or Portland and it has deficiencies but nothing life-threatening, I put a yellow tag on it. They have 30 days to cure. If I get there, they got dangling treads and the fire escape is pulling off the building, I have to put a red. When they have a red now, the city official is going to be involved to determine whether or not they need a fire watch, whether they need to close the building. Similar to here, if you have a life safety concern, how many hours? Or within how many hours you have to notify? Immediately, but usually within 24 hours, it states on the, right? Because there's a life safety concern. Then we talk about the information and how we do downtown walkarounds. So if you go to the National Fire Escape Association and you want to see downtown walkarounds, I did 2 classes already in California. NorCal, I did this class in its entirety. So if you want to watch this class, just go online and do Fire Escape Seminar NorCal, and that's the class of fire officials that I gave. But I also did one for LA County, and so I had an LA County fireman, a fire inspector, that walked around with me downtown, and we looked at fire escapes. And basically that's, you know, he was learning how to write a violation and what to look for. What, you know, aside from the obvious, you know, the smash from a truck, what else can I see when I look up at a fire escape full of rust with rusty tiers or cement spalling so that he can write a violation? Got it? All right, so I'm going to go along and play some of these pieces. I'll have some comments, and then yes, sir. Yeah, thank you. And if anybody has any questions, just stop me and say, "I have a question." All right. So as again, if you want any information, all of it is free online. You don't have to register, you don't have to do anything. So all the standard documentation nationwide, you can just go on here, clip it, download it, and you can modify it and use it. But again, you can't use it for Reg 4. Don't forget, you're a tester. You're not an inspector, you're a tester. Any confusion, you gotta call Daryl. Say, Daryl, am I crossing the line because there's a code of conduct? You know, mainly they don't want the fox in the hen house kind of situation. Got it? All right, so let's talk about this, load testing. Somebody asked, what is a load test? A load test, we actually load tested the Bob Hope building. You guys familiar with Bob Hope? Load testing is very simple. It's 100 pounds per square foot. So this was built for 100 pounds per square foot. What's that mean? That means, let's take this thing filled with, there's a party going on here, right? Look how old this picture, you can tell by the helmets, right? But look at all these guys. This is the concern. Fire escapes are always overbuilt. And I'm going to prove that fact right now and why there's a load test. It's built to 100 pounds per square foot. 5 by 5, 25 square feet. Times 100, 2,500. Are we clear? All right, so now let's take every one of these firemen who weigh 200, 175, plus 75 pounds worth of gear. They're at what? 250, right? So if I have a 250-pound fireman and I built this platform for for 2,500, how many firemen can I squeeze into that 5x5? 10, right? Can you get 10 fully outfitted firemen ever on a 5x5? So it's an impossibility. So they built this though that it's impossible. Let's take tenants now. I've got tenants that I want to put on there, right? And each one of my tenants weighs 150 pounds. So if I put 20 tenants in there, I'm at 3,000. So let's put it down to 17, 15. Can I get 15 tenants from this building to kind of hang out there until the ladder arrives to pull them up, to pull them off the building? Can I get 15 in a 5x5? So a properly maintained fire escape will never collapse. You can fill every nook and cranny of any fire escape that's properly maintained, no rust in the connections, which is called rust jacking, okay? And properly attached to the building. It'll hold, you can fill the entire fire escape with people, firemen, and dogs and cats. Will it ever come down? Never. Now, why do fire escapes collapse? Here's the main reason. One of the fasteners has gotten rust jacking inside. They used to be together. It went like this. The rust inside ate the shaft. The shaft is no longer holding the connection from doing its thing. The shaft of the rail, the tread, or the support gives way, and guess what gives away with it that's on top of it? 10 pounds or 1,000 pounds, it doesn't matter, they're both gonna fall. So an improperly maintained fire escape will collapse with firemen or tenants. Now, the last thing that you can't really see, because connections you can see when you walk on a fire escape. You can see rust jacking, the connection. What about that mystery of how it goes into the building? Well, all fire escapes, believe it or not, have the veneer on the outside and they have the main block wall or the main wood wall on the inside. So some of these veneer walls of brick are actually wood, but a majority of them are a veneer of brick and 2, 3, or 4 rows of dirty brick or masonry block wall. So this penetrates the veneer and comes in inside only 8 to 12 inches. That's it. Got it? So how do you verify that when it's already buried in the wall for 75 years? You load test it. Well, how can we eliminate the load test? When you read the code, the NFPA says it best. The authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence of strength. So if I take a fire escape and I change all the fasteners, do I still have to load test it, or am I providing the authority having jurisdiction other evidence of strength? You can take a chance here. So if I change every fastener of the major connections on an existing fire escape, do I still need to load test it, or have I met other evidence of strength? I've met other evidence of strength. So the only thing left now is these connections into my wall. So I have a choice. I can load test them. I can open them up and verify them, right? That's other evidence, right? Because I open it up and they're all good and I repack, which costs. Or I can put loads on it, so I change all the fire escape bolts everywhere, so I don't have to do the treads, the railings. But then on the platforms, what do I need to do? Load test it, right? Because I want to test the wall, right? But if I don't want to play with this wall that's 50, 75, 100 years old, what can I do to that connection that's in the wall that doesn't involve a mason tearing it all apart? What you can do is, it's called refasten it to the building. So you keep the original, you take 5 inches away from the original connection into the building, you drill a 3/4 hole, 8 to 12 inches deep, you put in an epoxy bolt, a Hilti epoxy, then you reconnect it back to the fire escape. What have you done to the original support connection? That's cemented, it's 50, 75, 100 years old. What have you done to it? You've duplicated it. So now, do I need it anymore? Do I have to take it out, or can I leave it there? So as soon as you duplicate the connection in an older building, I just eliminated all the need for a load test. So you can do full load test or you can do partials. Clear on that explanation? But again, not required in Reg 4. But sometimes in certain buildings that is getting a full renovation, a design professional or others acceptable to the building official need to do a full evaluation. It's not a Reg 4 test. That's a signature at the end that's either going to be sealed by somebody who's a structural engineer, registered architect, or a fire escape inspector that's acceptable to the city official. Got it? Let's take a look at some calamities nationwide, guys. In 2014, we had more fatalities in the US nationwide, and here are some of them.
But right now, firefighters are taking down the ladders and rolling up the hoses. Then earlier in the night, when they pulled up, there were flames coming out of the side of the building. Firefighters say it was one of the scarier moments because when you pull up to a building and you see children and mothers hanging off the side of the fire escape, smoke swirling around them, is that scary, scary stuff? They got up there, they got the ladders up, and they said nobody got hurt.
The fire escape, there was
guys
3
can
or
see
4
it, right?
people hanging off the fire escape, they couldn't get off. They were just on the fire escapes. I had people hanging in the fire escapes at the rear of the building, and on this side of the building, we had a bunch of people on that fire escape.
Well, about 50 people were displaced inside this building. However, firefighters say there's good news tonight. It looks like everybody will be allowed to go back in, except the one unit where the fire was in. They said, that's good luck to them tonight. I'm Bob Wilson, on the scene of Bridgeport, News 8.
So that's a complex that had 50 apartments, and every one of the fire escapes was bad. I actually inspected this fire escape 6 months later. These fire escapes, there was about a dozen of them, and they were all in the state of collapse. 6 months later. Improper inspection procedures, you know what I'm saying? So as we talked about in this, you're gonna see that nationwide, there is tagging. And what you wanna have on all fire escapes is a tagging process that is not back at Reg 4. You want the actual tag, like an elevator, somewhere where somebody can see it. So the tenants walking underneath the fire escape, they see the white tag. The building inspectors or the fire inspectors doing routine inspections, they can see the white tag. And who else sees it? You do. When you're doing inspections, you can say when the next date is because they all have an expiration date on them. Okay, we talked about how does a design professional act? Well, you read this statement. How does a repair guy act? You read this statement because he's being watched by the design professional or others approved by the building official. And how do you paint it? Actually, just let me adjust this focus here. Sorry about that. Okay? If you guys go online, go to portland.gov, or you just go on Google and you type in fire escape issues. See right there? Fire escape issues, Oregon. They tell you how to inspect fire escapes. They tell you how to load test fire escapes. They tell you how to paint fire escapes. So we've been working with the city of Portland, Oregon for 10 years. And 3 years ago, we actually cut it in a cycle, and we actually changed the state code to reflect a lot of the examples that we're talking about today. So this is some materials and strengths that we find out there, and a lot of them say the same thing. So I'm going to go over with you guys. So this is the NFPA. The authority having jurisdiction shall be permitted to approve any existing fire escape there that has been shown by load test or other satisfactory evidence to have adequate strength. The fire escape pier shall be constructed to 100 pounds. The code official is authorized to require testing or other satisfactory evidence that the existing fire escape meets the requirements of this paragraph. You see? So all building codes, fire codes will always be stating that, and I'll show you throughout that. The three of them pretty much say the same thing: evaluate, test, or certify the fire escape. And is there a way to escape the load test? The answer is yes. It's called other evidence of strength. So a lot of fire escapes that have been refurbished don't have to be load tested. Okay? And a lot of times you can put off the load testing for 15 to 25 years. But what you do have to do is still the 5-year cycle. So in the rest of the country, all fire escapes are examined every 5 years. There's no ladder inspections every year. So LA is now inspecting the fire escape now in its entirety every year. San Francisco, they have the ladder inspection every year, and they have the whole fire escape system inspected by a design professional every 5. Got it?
Is that?
This one?
I mean, that's somewhere at 29. The exception for fire escape ladders or for the 10 or 18 through occupants. Certain dwellings.
The lowest shall not be more than 18 feet from the ground.
Next.
Termination. It shall extend to the ground or be provided with counterbalance stairs reaching the ground.
Next.
That's about termination. For fire escape stairs serving 10 or fewer occupants, an approved fire escape ladder is allowed to serve as a termination.
Okay, so the intent with the ladders is 10 or fewer people using that escape.
It's one of these gray areas, another one that says you go nationwide on a lot of codes, no ladders can be used as a means of egress. So some of it contradicts itself, yet because sometimes in a fire code, you say, oh, you don't have a second means of egress and you're at a certain point, you know what, you put sprinklers in the building, we'll let you use that as your second means of egress. It's very, so I'm not a code guy to say what's right, what's wrong, but these things occur. But what's most important here is this one that says 18 feet from the ground. The lowest balcony, so you guys got a lot of first floors that are 18 footers. It's telling you that the lowest balcony is gonna be 18, but it says something else here. But shall extend to the ground and be provided with a counterbalance. So any ladder you get to that is cut off and you have to jump 6 feet to the ground or 16 feet to the ground. What's this law say? You can't. Must be complete to grade in the building code. So it was built wrong in the building process and nobody ever picked it up. So if you don't have a fire escape that goes completely to grade into a public way, there's a problem with that fire escape. And you know what I use a lot? Greatest statement. It's pre-existing non-conforming subject to building official acceptance. So I take that, I put it on 5, put it right back to the city official and say, hey, you guys work it out between your city official and you, Mr. Owner, because if they'll accept that, the liability is not on me because it was accepted as is. But I'm telling you, it was never built wrong from the start because it says in the code. So let's take a look at the International Fire Code. This is important. You guys know that the International Fire Code, I believe from a lot of our activities, so I've been teaching this class nationwide. When this happened, nobody called me and told me, but the International Fire Code mandates now that every fire escape in the US get load tested every 5 years. That's the code. The International Building Code, testing and certification, the International Fire Code, any fire escape system found to be in a state of deterioration or unsafe shall be repaired immediately. Depending upon the structural condition, a load test shall be conducted. What's that saying? Who decides? We decide if it gets load tested, or the city official decides who gets load tested. It's all on the city official, right? The NFPA, the authority having jurisdiction shall be permitted to approve any existing fire escape standard that has been shown by load test or other evidence of strength. International Building Code, testing and certification. All exterior fire escape systems shall be examined or tested, then load tested and or certified for structural adequacy. So what's certification? Isn't that other evidence of strength? But what's been out there for 25 to 50 years, guys, is an opinion letter on the letterhead of a structural engineer that says the fire escape is in conformity and ready for its intended use. But what's the disclaimer? To the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, is always the statement they put. This fire escape is ready for its intended use. Which means what? Is it a load test? Is it other evidence of strength? But in case somebody gets hurt, who's got the golden parachute? The guy that wrote, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief. And when he signs it that day, what happened to that fire escape the next day?
That's when it fell apart.
Nobody knows. Could have been an earthquake, could have been a million things. Did you monitor, do you have video monitoring of your fire escape over the past 2-3 years? And now it collapsed? Who knows what occurred? I don't know. But the day I was there, she passed. The day I cashed your check, she passed. This is the IFC. And when you read this IFC, it gets into a lot of fire escape issues, as you can see here. And again, not part of Reg 4. But if you're having a fire escape fully evaluated so that it meets the load test requirements, a full evaluation, again, structural engineers, registered architects, or others acceptable to the building official can do an evaluation and a sign-off in lieu of a load test. Can you sign off in lieu of a load test under your Reg 4? But you can operate the system, and as the first part of the inspection stage, you're looking at the rails. You know what I'm saying? I even had a question about a rail, a tread that had rust inside and a spot weld on top, which is ready to go. Because welds snap, bolts stretch, right? And I said, where do I put that? Because I have to pass it on my visual because it's not down, right? But I know what's gonna happen there, so I have to put it on 5 and do what? Talk about it. You know what I'm saying? So just so you know, guys, on anything that's fire escape related, answer the questions that are on the questions, right? But then if you have concerns, put it on 5. Got it? And explain in detail what you're concerned. Because it's the fire department, or it's gonna be the fire prevention unit that's gonna be discussing that with the owner. This is the OSHA code 1910.37. All exit routes must be maintained during construction, repairs, or alterations. So during repairs or alterations, employees must not occupy a workplace unless the exit routes required by the subpart are available and the existing fire protections are maintained, or until alternate fire protection is furnished that provides equivalent level of safety. So every building that you're dealing with, and if the fire escape is not up to par, they're gonna save that for the last. Does that meet OSHA standard? So it's gotta be the first thing you fix, so that everybody can work in that building. But if you don't wanna fix it, what do you tell the client that he has to do for OSHA? Put up scaffolding. Make sure the scaffolding has stairs. Now what? Now you're okay, because you've done the second half. You've provided them with alternate. Fire escape checklist. Well, we tell all the fire departments who don't need any more work, how do you get fire escapes? Don't go looking for fire escapes. We tell them, have fire escapes come looking for you. So when you do a sprinkler test nationwide, if we have our way with it, it's a checklist item is that you also provide us a fire escape inspection, or that you get a copy of the fire escape affidavit. So you're submitting your sprinkler test in. What are you also supposed to attach with it? As proof of a safe building. A copy of the certification that's already been done. So we sort of are bringing fire escapes back in, because in fire protection, guess where it is? Is it inside hanging out with you guys, or is it the bastard child of egress outside? Where's fire escape? So smoke detector sign-offs, guess what you have to do with a fire prevention signs a smoke detector sign-off to let the building be occupied? Guess what you want to attach to that smoke detector sign-off?
Copy of the fire.
Copy of the fire escape affidavit. Not, you're not ordering one, they have to have one. So when you pull a permit on a building, and you have to have all the things, the plot plan, your insurances and everything, what are you supposed to also have? A safe building certificate that says you have 2 means of egress, that means OSHA. So we're making a checklist that basically say that buildings, if you create a checklist item, buildings will find you to have fire escapes become checked off and certified. Guys, this is gonna talk about all fire escapes in the US. You guys remember the Rhode Island fire that killed 100 people that, dancing in a nightclub? Right after that happened in about 2003. It was over 100 people died in a nightclub. They wanted to do more fire protection and talk about fire escapes. So this Channel 7 news reporter said, hey, I want to do a story on fire escapes. I mentioned to her in the Northeast that 75+% of everything I look at fails. Of that, 50% has life safety concerns. She goes, I don't believe you. So she wanted to do a 1-minute piece. She ended up doing a 5-minute piece.
The smoke, the flames, and the frightened faces, all in a firefighter's line of duty. But Chief William Hitchcock remembers the night it wasn't the fire that almost stopped him,
Scared to death.
but the fire escape that broke underneath him.
When the railing just came away from the building.
And our investigation found across Massachusetts more unsafe fire escapes, rusty, deteriorating, crumbling, broken. And what state officials didn't know, the system they set up to keep fire escapes safe is also falling apart.
The potential ramifications are disastrous.
So let's look at this one. This expert ironworker is licensed to build, maintain, and inspect fire escapes. So they're over here? For months, we examined dozens of them with alarming results.
Looking at this today, would this pass inspection?
No.
In dormitories, at theaters, at homes, and apartment buildings.
Rust is actually eating away the metal of the fire escape.
Right.
And the bottom line?
It'll get weak and then eventually it'll fall.
This one has rotted connections. This one missing bolts, twisted metal.
Would the stairs come down?
No, never been done.
This one, a broken tread.
So how dangerous is it for the people inside this building?
This fire escape is definitely going to put somebody either in the hospital or it's going to put somebody in a cemetery.
Fire escapes are so critical. The state building code requires they be certified for structural adequacy and safety every 5 years. But our investigation found that safeguard is simply being ignored. Here's proof. We chose fire escapes at random in Boston, Somerville, Cambridge, Worcester, and here in Quincy. We checked building department files.
But there's no fire escape certification.
to see if building owners had submitted their mandatory inspection reports.
There's no certification in this building.
Bottom line, not one we checked in Quincy had been certified as safe. And the Director of Inspectional Services admitted because of staffing shortages, the city has no idea how many other fire escape owners are breaking the rules.
And as a result, do you know how many fire escapes in your city are safe or not?
Well, I don't know.
In Worcester, not one we checked was certified. In Somerville,
No.
4 more fire escapes,
To the fault of the cracks? Yeah.
not one up-to-date certification. And again, no system for keeping track.
How can they get away with it?
I guess that the shortest answer of all is because we don't have the resources to sit here and follow up on these things.
If structural deficiencies are reported, local building inspectors can actually evacuate residents until repairs are made.
Would you talk to us on camera about this?
No, but when we surveyed 24 more communities, most admitted they had no idea how many fire escapes were certified. In Taunton, inspectors told us they haven't seen a certification in 25 years. Northampton officials said it's a cold day in hell when that happens. In Cambridge, too, not one of our test buildings was certified, and the official in charge would not come out to discuss it. In Boston, where there are more than 8,000 fire escapes, again, according to inspectional services, not one we checked was certified. Officials know they are required to enforce the building code, but they admit they don't always know if owners are breaking the law.
The building code is being ignored.
Right, but it's difficult to write a violation when you don't have knowledge of something like that.
But state officials say for a critical issue like this, communities should know. And they warn the Massachusetts building code is not optional.
Does it worry you that these fire escapes are not being certified?
This is an important issue and should not be ignored.
That's because after the smoke and flames begin, it'll be too late to learn you've got no way out.
I can't stress enough, Hank, that these things have to be maintained and someone's got to be watching.
As a result of our investigation, state officials will now issue an alert to local inspectors. Meanwhile, if there's a fire escape on your home or office, you can contact your local building department to make sure it's properly certified. In the newsroom, I'm Hank Philippi Ryan.
So immediately, they issued, for the city of Boston, they issued a requirement that all permits now, to close a permit off, whether you're doing a toilet, whether you're doing electrical, or whether you're doing a roof, to close that permit, you need a copy of the current fire escape affidavit. So that's how fire escapes find, you make fire escapes find you. So you add it as a checklist to all kinds of things. You add it to permits, sprinklers, smoke detectors. You add it to the health department. So if somebody gets evacuated from a building, you gotta put them back in. They need a safe building certificate saying that you have 2 means of egress. So these are the things we're changing nationwide. We don't need a fire escape task force. We need to create a list so that it's on a majority of lists. If you look at, on the back of your book, guys, this is a famous photograph that started in 1973, because before 73, you didn't have to inspect fire escapes on a yearly basis or 5. And if you look at this, one of these photographs is a Pulitzer Prize winning photograph that a woman fell 4 stories to her death. The niece landed on her and the fireman survived. See, that's the fireman's ladder. He actually grabbed it with one hand and saved himself. This happened back in 73. They changed the code then to make it a 5-year cycle, and then it fell out of favor. So even though you got these 5-year cycles, it's not happening. But you know what is happening? Brycer. And what's Brycer gonna do? Will Brycer forget there's a 5-year cycle or a yearly cycle, or it's gonna be automated? So right now, the reason why a lot of things are not happening is because there was too much paper coming through. We were doing a great job of shoving paper down there. What was not happening? They weren't processing it correctly, or they didn't have enough staff to process. Now what's happening as this thing moves over to the Brycer over the next 6 months to a year or 2? What processes that paper besides your $10? The automation of it. It's a positive for everybody. The $10 is nothing compared to what you're going to be seeing in activity, because now the owners are going to be controlled by a machine that says sprinkler test, alarm test. It's a machine sending them these letters and notices, and a lot of it will be handled. So I'm very excited about the Bryson part.
I got a question for you.
Shoot.
The local HJs,
I'm sorry, let's just watch
Witnesses
this.
say it sounded like
Philadelphia.
an incredible explosion when the fire escape of a Philadelphia apartment building suddenly collapsed, injured 3 people.
NBC 10 cameras were there as a friend holds on to one of the victim's hands, who is apparently conscious as the victim is placed into an ambulance by medics.
KYWTV reports a man who was critically injured and 2 women were rushed to local hospitals.